Hey, everybody, this is Perch. All right. So I want to say on the offset that several of you will just not agree with what I'm about to say um, on principle. And that's fine. I get it. I get why. If I could, if people tell me every now and then, like, hey, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you want? I had somebody ask me that today, like, and they're asking me that about financial terms of a contract. So it's very different from this conversation. But one of the things I would love is if kind of the people who have been arguing in this debate around comics and culture and everything else could just take a step backward and really kind of assess what they're fighting for. Because every now and then somebody does the right thing, but it gets disguised or masked in the argument that we've been having about comics and intent and you know I, what is there's a phrase like assume good intent or intent versus action or intent versus impact. I think is the message. The idea behind intent versus impact is separating out the um is this, what is it that you meant and how did it land, as two separate things. And I think that's pretty valuable if you can do it. Now, I grant you, it's hard to be able to separate those two, particularly when people on one side or another of that argument are behaving like lunatics. Anyway, intent versus impact. So the comic I'm talking about, which you guessed by clicking on the video or the thumbnail, which absolutely nobody will want to hear, is the DC Pride issue. Now, every year DC and Marvel both do comics celebrating, although is it really celebrating? I don't know. They do comics themed or built around Pride Month, the month of June. And they are LGBTQ focused stories. And historically, in my opinion, again, my opinion, not yours, could be yours. It's up to you. My opinion, those comics are usually terrible. They're terrible not because they feature gay people. That's not the terrible part. The terrible part is that they are nonsensical, written badly, do not have any kind of characterization that matches the characters they're actually doing the comic on. The stories have no bearing or impact on anything. They're entirely irrelevant comics. That's why I dislike them. The idea of anthologies. Look, I'm not somebody who hates anthologies. I know that common YouTube behavior is that anthologies equal bad, but there have been really good anthology issues out there. There have been plenty of them. You can do a collection of short stories as part of a greater narrative, and it could be a great comic. It could be a great storytelling vehicle. In fact, if you have a bunch of characters that do not really warrant top billing in a comic all by themselves, then yeah, something like an anthology of everything put together actually works pretty well. But a lot of the Marvel voices and DC Pride issues feature, frankly, dumb stories of gay and lesbian and I guess transgender characters. Oftentimes characters that have been invented because every year, particularly with Marvel, they get the idea in their head that they have to come up with a new gay character every year to introduce a new gay. And it's gross. And by the way I just said it, I mean, that's not how you should promote LGBTQ comics. I would get, I would happily do a video with Joe and I would ask him this. I feel fairly confident that he would be as annoyed as I would. But when you're promoting your comic as, and I am not exaggerating, in the solicitations for Marvel voices 2 years ago, I think actually 2022, so 3 years ago, it said, introducing a new gay. That's what it said. I'm not joking. By the way, if you're on Reddit and you hate this channel because of I'm a Nazi or whatever it happened, go look it up. That's how it promoted a new gay. That's not how you. That's wrong on every level. What are you doing? But anyway, these comics, if the purpose is to celebrate or promote, so many channels talk about a secret agenda that Marvel and DC are pursuing in regards to normalizing or promoting LGBTQ themes and agendas and rights and everything else, then you would think that they would want to produce, good comics, that they want to produce actually good stories, things that you remember, things that made the LGBTQ lifestyle look cool. That, you're if you're trying to indoctrinate children, you would want to do something that, made it actually look good. But instead, they usually get kind of bottom of the barrel writer as an artist, and they produce absolute shit that nobody remembers or nobody cares about. And when I say this, by the way, I have definitely gotten the collection of bozos out there on social media and Reddit who have said, Perch actually hates the gays. He says he likes them, but he hates them. By the way, if you put the word "the" in front of gays, I think you're the bigot. Just put that out there. But anyway, I can't. I've said this before. I'll say it again. There's lots of supposedly pro LGBTQ channels and blogs and websites that wouldn't give Rachel Pollack the time of day. But we had a absolute banger of an interview with Rachel that you can still view on this channel. And I recommend you do that. And, may she rest in peace. But, it was amazing how many people didn't give Rachel the time of day until she died. But be that as it may. My goal for these comics is that they matter. And that's my goal for every comic, whether it's straight comic, straight time, or whether it's Marvel voices, or whether it's just a superhero story, or whether it's a slice of life story, or whatever else. I want it to matter. I want the comic to actually tell a good story, do something meaningful, create a memory. I don't know, do something of worth. That's what I want. And so I am pleased to mention, again, guessing most of you will disagree or not want to go check it out for yourself. That's your prerogative. DC Pride 2025 is a good comic. It is. They finally do something that is smart, and that was they basically told a fairly good, solid story. It had a bunch of characters in it. Now, there's one exception. The Midnighter and Apollo story is garbage, but the rest of it, and I don't remember who the writer was of that one, but the rest of the comic actually tells a pretty decent, compelling narrative. It is not a comic filled with, I'm gay, therefore gay. It's nothing like that. It actually, treats these characters like they should be, like three-dimensional human beings. It tackles certainly queer themes, but it also does not paint all of those characters as great. Some of them are making the wrong choice. Some of them are good guys. Some of them are bad guys. Some of them are flawed. All of them actually have issues. Many of them have struggles. But more importantly, the comic, which is made up of a lot of different characters, tells a single story, a story that actually feels like it matters. The comic centers around, characters getting erased, characters being, disappearing. But it's not told in a cheesy way. It's not told as if it's not a standard story of like, hey, some bigots are trying to ruin the Pride Parade and we stopped them. And that's how we're seen. And then we're going to go out and kiss. It actually tells a story that feels a little dangerous. It feels like the characters are under a decent amount of threat. It doesn't feel like it's a generic bunch of white supremacists that are just harassing them. And, on one hand, they're, bad trying to dismantle who they are, but on the other hand, they're easily defeated because you can't have those bad guys appear too strong. You need to, just kind of brush them aside. It actually feels like there's some danger to these characters and that they're having to kind of band together, work together to do something of meaning. It's not a perfect comic by any stretch of the imagination, but this is the right way. If you're going to tell a comic where you're going to actually kind of leverage and do something with these characters, this is how you do it. So, it can be refined, it can be improved. There's, as I mentioned, the person who wrote the Midnighter and Apollo story, have zero clue of the origins of those characters and how they belong. So, there's parts of it that are definitely off. But if you compare it to what Marvel did this year, to what DC and Marvel have done in previous years, this is a good comic. And by the way, I posted that in the community notes. I mentioned videos. They did a promo poster for DC Pride that is just terrible. I mean, absolutely freaking terrible. It is. If you looked at that poster and you went and bought the comic, the two bear no resemblance to each other. None. It is. I mean, it's as off as it can be. So I mean, that just means somebody in DC's marketing department needs a giant kick in the ass. But if you work for DC, I'm begging you, promote this comic like you should promote it. Like, hey, these are some characters that normally do not get a lot of page time. They're dealing with a legitimate, decent threat. You got a bunch of different characters all coming together, but in this case, like the writer and editor, God Save America, amazing. They actually coordinated. So you get a comic that actually feels like it's tied together on some level. Like they did a good job and they deserve some praise for what they did. So DC Pride 2025, again, I'm not raving about this like it's the most amazing comic in the history of the world. It is not. It's an average, it's an average effort, but considering where they've come from, it is like going from I'm not going to use an analogy. It's a dramatic improvement from where they've come from. And if this is the future of, Marvel Voices or Pride or whatever else, then this is the right approach. This is the right way to get these characters over. This is the right way to bill how the interaction happens. They put these characters under danger. The characters actually are threatened. There is a risk of death and real problems with these characters. This is the way. This is what you want. And for a lot of readers, I still maintain, and again, we're so indoctrinated into the culture war at this point. I get it. But the reality is, I believe from all the people I talk to, from all the comics I've sold, from all the people who are actual comic readers and not tourists, no matter what side you're on, people want to read a good, compelling story with some danger and some threat to it. They don't inherently care who the comic character is fucking. They don't care because those scenes aren't usually on the page. What they want is tension. What they want is danger. What they want are these characters to have to face trials and overcome them and do something substantial. That's what they want. Who the character is attracted to, that's honestly a secondary concern. If you take Spider-Man, who's been, with Mary Jane, Black Cat, whatever, all the other, Gwen Stacy, the other women he's been with, and you suddenly say, well, he's gay now. Yeah, people are going to complain. But if you take, Wiccan or Apollo or, Batwoman, or, if you take characters like that, Renee Montoya, comic readers just want good stories. They don't want you to turn those characters straight. They just want they want the characters to be treated with respect. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like the DC Pride issue act in 2025 actually sort of did that. The characters are actually feel like they're treated with respect and depth. And that's great. So hats off to you. You thumbs up. Now, feel free to roast me in the comments. But hey, I'm calling it like I see it. Thanks for listening.